Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 40 of TalentED. This is the show that explores the fascinating journeys of remarkable individuals who have made an impact on the world. And I'm your host, Dr. Eric Skansen. Today, we have a true luminary in the world of broadcasting and leadership, Joe Schmit. I'm super excited about this one. Joe Schmidt's not your ordinary sports broadcaster, by the way. He's a multi-talented individual with a career that spans over 4 decades. As a sports broadcaster, he's witnessed and covered every major sporting event, and his list of interviews reads like a who's who in the world of sports. His contributions to broadcasting are nothing short of remarkable. He's earned 18 Emmys from the National Television Academy and a prestigious Silver Circle designation from the Upper Midwest chapter of the Emmys in 2020. He's also been honored with the National Headliner Award. Again, I'm telling you, it extends beyond the broadcast booth. He's the author of 2 impactful books, Silent Impact and The Impact Blueprint. In 2019, he was also inducted into the Minnesota Speakers Hall of Fame, a testament to his powerful speaking skills, holds the CSP designation, Certified Speaking Professional. Joe, I am thrilled to have you on the show today. So tell us a little bit more about yourself. That's my introduction. What's your introduction, man?
Well, that's very nice of you. Thank you. Yeah, I've been a lucky guy. I pretty much have lived my dream my entire life. I wanted to be a pro athlete, wasn't good enough. Someone said, Joe, with your big mouth, you ought to become a sportscaster. I became a sportscaster. And somewhere during that process, all of a sudden, I got asked to speak to a lot of different banquets and rotaries and chambers and different things. And I used to tell the Win One for the Gipper stories. And all of a sudden I realized this was all about me. I was saying, I was in the locker room when the Twins won the 87 and 91 World Series. And I realized I had to change that. So I started working on some stories. Well, next thing I knew, I had a speaking business. I had 2 books. I'm in the National Speakers Association. I'm a certified speaking professional. I mean, all these things that kind of happened, just happened. And I just kind of listen to what people are saying, what they want. And it's been incredibly rewarding to have, basically 2 careers that work side by side pretty well together.
Well, that's an amazing entryway into even this question. My leadoff question for you, Joe, is, your career in broadcasting has spanned over 4 decades, numerous sporting events. You mentioned the World Series in '87. I remember being a kid and watching that and being amazed, and of course the '91 series. Can you share let's just get this out of the way right now. Can you share a memorable moment or an interview that, we're going to be talking about impact in a little bit. I want to know which one of these interviews or events had an impact on you personally or professionally?
Well, and that's really interesting, Eric, because I have interviewed Muhammad Ali, Tiger Woods, one-on-one, with Brett Favre, Jack Nicklaus, LeBron James, Michael Jordan, on. And I've tried to figure out, what do all these athletes have that sets them apart? And it's their passion to be the best. It's their passion to prepare to be the best. So they are always trying to make themselves better. So that's always kind of inspired me that way. But it's a lot of times the interviews you remember are the ones of maybe the kids who have big dreams, and all of a sudden you see those dreams come true. I interviewed Joe Mauer when he was a junior in high school, and now he's probably going to the Baseball Hall of Fame. When Jalen Suggs was interviewed, I interviewed him when he was like in 8th grade. And the next thing you know, he became a 1st-round draft choice, and he's doing very well in the NBA. But one of the most memorable interviews I had was there was a football coach at Roseville, Minnesota, a Division III school, Northwestern College, and he was dying of cancer. And I spent a couple hours with him on the golf cart as he's coaching this team, knowing his fate. And it was my Tuesdays with Maury moment. I
Mm,
wish I would have recorded every word of it, because I would have had a Tuesdays with Maury book.
yeah.
But so you have a lot of those kinds of moments when you're lucky, and when you get them, relish them, know that you're in that moment, and make sure you're become a little bit more aware at that point.
Yeah, well, that's incredible. I mean, that's quite a list of people you have there, and maybe in future interviews you'll be able to go back and go, I knew Dr. Eric Scanson at the beginning. Who
There
knows?
you go.
Who knows?
I knew him then.
I knew him then. You talk about this thing called the Mount Rushmore of influence. Can you expand on that for us a little bit, Joe, and tell us,
Yeah.
what is it?
So I talk a lot about being more aware and intentional with the impact you have, and just how powerful it is. And it can be positive and it can be negative. And I have a lot of stories and research that goes along with that. So when you speak nowadays, you just can't go out there and give the motivational speak and walk out the door. You have to leave people with something to chew on, something that they can take their game to the next level. So I came up with the idea, if I'm telling people they have to make a bigger impact on their world, and the little things really are the big things, I just kind of came up with the idea, if you could build a monument to the four most impactful people in your life, if you could build your own Mount Rushmore of influence, who would be on the list? And so I will literally have people, fill these out at a lot of sessions. And sometimes people keep them, and sometimes people change them. And then I make it a little bit more difficult on them. I tell them they can't put their parents on the list.
Mhm.
But Eric, I do have to tell you, as long as we're talking on School Pro here, I have done this exercise for well over 10 years now, to various audiences, everything from Fortune 500 companies, C-suite people, to the sweatshirt and baseball cap crowd. And I will always ask, when they're done with this exercise, I'll always ask, like, how many had a family member? How many had whatever?
Mhm.
I'll always ask, how many had a school teacher? And every single time, 75% of the room raises their hand. So I always, when I talk to schools, I always bring this up, because I say, you never know when you're going to touch that person, when you're going to inspire that person, when you're going to be the person who kind of sets the stage for them. And someday you're on their Mount Rushmore and you didn't even know it.
Right. I mean, that's a perfect lead into this idea of impact that you speak about, right? So, you've not only excelled in broadcasting, but you've authored two books. One of them being Silent Impact, and the other one being The Impact Blueprint. This sounds like a good lead into Silent Impact, in that maybe we don't always know the impact that we have on people. Can you tell
Yeah,
us about the inspiration behind these?
my tagline is, we make our biggest impressions when we're not trying to be impressive. And I'll say it again, because you want to listen to it. We make our biggest impressions when we're not trying to be impressive. You don't have to be the leader. You don't have to be an extrovert. It's the little things that sometimes make the biggest impact. So I have a lot of stories and research that go right along with that theme. And this is how it happened, Eric. I was working with I hired a coach. If you're really trying to up your game. So I became a speaker, and I hired a coach who was going to help me with content and my stories, to tighten them up, to make sure they were on point, make sure it was organized. And I'm talking to, and this was a team that they had, talking to three of them. And we didn't, when I first started, the name of my speech was The Pursuit of Happiness. And that was wasn't going to really resonate with a lot of people. Of course, everybody wants to be happy. Um, and they didn't like it either. And I didn't really like it. I wasn't behind it. And anyway, I said, well, the people I'm talking about, it's almost like they have a silent impact on people. And all of a sudden they all stop and they go, what did you just say? I said, it's like a silent impact. They said, that's the name of your book.
That's the
That's the
one.
name of your first presentation. That's what you want to go on. Then a little bit later, I just happened to say, we make our biggest impressions when we're not trying to be impressive. They said, that's your tagline. So it was really, what was happening. It was a brainstorming session, and it just kind of came out of me, and that's what I've gone with. And I think it resonates pretty well when I throw in some of the other exercises and stories that back it up.
Yeah, nice. Uh, I'm gonna hand you a softball here.
Good.
We talked about P's before. What are the three P's?
Well, the three P's in silent impact are purpose, persistence, and passion. And, they're a little bit, anybody can say that, purpose, align your actions with your values. Persistent, you need to be persistent in your positivity and persistent in your preparation. And passion, think about people who are really good at what they do. Think of people in education who are good. They're passionate about helping kids take their games to the next level. And, but it was just an easy way to kind of put it into three segments, and then we break it down from there.
Yeah, very nice. I think about those three words, and especially in schools, we don't always get to feel a lot of those pieces from, or the impact from people, like you said, that silent impact. Um, and we don't have a large award ceremony. We don't have a national thing like that. Achieving 18 Emmys. This is my segue into the Emmys part, being recognized with the Silver Circle designation by the Upper Midwest chapter. That's an incredible accomplishment. What lessons or principles have guided you through your career that have maybe helped you be successful in the broadcasting industry?
Well, first of all, work with good people.
Yeah.
Good people make you better. And then, I think somewhere along the line, I was an athlete when I was in high school, and I was an average athlete. I tried hard at every single sport. I played 3 sports a year, and I wanted to be recruited by everybody, and nobody recruited me. I was one of those athletes. But I think what I learned from sports was that there are no shortcuts. You have to do the work. You have to show up. You have to grind every day. And I think it became part of my DNA, and I've used it in business, and I've tried to use it in my personal life too.
Mhm.
When you show up, I just spoke to a school district last week, and right now teachers are hurting. Too many great teachers are leaving. And what I tried to really make sure that it hit with these teachers today is, don't forget your purpose and why you started in the first place. And I think what happens is, in today's world, with whether it's budgets, the stress, parents who maybe get too involved, poorly behaving kids, whatever the case might be, it's driving really good people out of the business because they're forgetting their why, and they're forgetting why they got into it in the first place. So what I like to do is really remind them, this is what you're doing. You are having an impact on people's lives. And every once in a while, we need to do that, because the list of people who feel a little underappreciated and overworked and maybe underpaid is a pretty long list. So if you want to stay involved, you better figure out what that why is, where that passion lies.
Could you imagine if we saw the exodus from, I'm just going to come back to the sports world. If our top stars all of a sudden were like, no, this is not worth it, I'm stepping away, I don't want to play anymore. The impact that would have on professional sports. It's really what's happening in education right now, is our best of the best are stepping back and going, I can't do this anymore.
And we're seeing it in coaches, because coaches is kind of the same thing. We're seeing it, referees, they can't get enough referees to do high school and junior high games. We're seeing, people, the expectations of some people are so unrealistic that it's putting pressure on people who are trying to do their job and trying to do it well. And that's tough. And at a certain point, people just kind of give up, and that's therein lies the problem. But you're right. If it happened in another industry, I think there would be maybe a little bigger call to action than there is right now. The one thing I always say about schools is, the people who yell the loudest and complain about what's happening in schools aren't in schools. They haven't been in school since they graduated from high school, and they're complaining about what's happening in the school district.
Yes.
They don't know what's going on. And the other thing, what else they don't know, Eric? They don't know how good these kids are.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some amazing kids. Every time you sit there and you talk to kids, or you get around kids, and you realize, boy, some of these kids are brilliant. They're motivated. They're talented. Don't worry about our future. They're in their hands.
Yeah, we do have good kids. It's really part of the favorite part of my job is getting to know those kids and I'm going to come back to the I word here, impact. You can see and forecast forward that there's kids moving through our system that are going to be the leaders. They're going to be impacting the future. They're going to be impacting jobs and industry. It is so, so fun to see
Could
those
I
kids.
could I share a quick Mount Rushmore story?
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, I had there was a leadership conference. They had kids from 100 high schools. I worked with the kids in the morning. I think each school sent like two kids, and then their parents came. I worked with the parents in the afternoon, and I brought them all together at night, and I had them compare their Mount Rushmores. And I had when I was done speaking, I had a line of parents over here and a line of kids over here. The parents are telling me, I learned more about my kid today than I did in the first 17 years. And I had kids tell me, I know more about my mom and dad today than I
Oh,
did
that's
before.
amazing.
Because that's really a good way to find out about your kids, grandkids. That's really a good way to find out about your parents too, because we all have people on that list. We might have talked about Aunt Harriet, or we might have talked about that science teacher,
Mhm.
but do they know the story behind the story?
I'm going to switch gears on us a little bit. I have just a few questions, kind of a get to know Joe
Yep.
bit here. Outside of broadcasting and speaking, what are some of the favorite things that you love to do to bring you that joy and relaxation?
Well, family always comes first. I like to golf. About a year ago, I joined a group of men who want to get healthier, men above 50.
Yeah,
And so I really have become a person who does a lot of healthy things now, and it's changed my body and changed the future, because I want to. I have a 2-year-old granddaughter, and I made her a promise that I'm gonna dance at her wedding. So
yeah,
I
nice.
I need to be around for that. So the tagline in the group is harder to kill. So those are things I really enjoy. And anytime I can get together with friends and go from there.
Joe, maybe that's a little preview of book number 3. Joe Schmit, Harder to Kill.
Well, book number 3 is coming out in January,
Oh,
and
it have to be book 4
and
then.
I'm actually going to ask for your help offline on this. Um, I tell a story about Joe Mauer, who walked a blind student to the lunchroom every day, and I researched and found the impact it's still having. Long story short, I was approached by my publisher to write a children's book. It is coming out in January. 100% of the proceeds are going to go to two charities, and and then we are going to try to get donors and people
Mm,
to buy books, donate books, and then we will distribute them to grade schools throughout the state, throughout the country, depending on where it
mm,
comes in. And we're going to make these books available. So it's a win-win-win, because it tells this great story or stories about Joe and character. Two, it's a literacy play. We're going to get these books in the hands. It's a beautiful
I
book,
love it.
done by an amazing illustrator. And the third thing is, all the money raised goes to these two charities, and guess what these two charities are involved with? Kids.
Yeah,
So
that's
we're gonna,
win-win-win. I love it.
we're gonna
You
try
have
to get
my
people
support
say,
100%.
let me buy 10 books for this school. Let me buy 10 books for this school, and let's get the word out and let's make it happen.
Yeah, I can help with that, Joe. Let's do it.
Yep.
Um, Without detail, who's on your Rushmore?
My Mount Rushmore. Okay, now the first thing I told you was you couldn't put your parents on the list. Well, I have my dad on the list, but I call it the spirit of my dad, because I was 25 years old and my dad died,
Oh,
and I've spent the rest of my life trying to make him proud. So that's one. My high school history / football coach, Coach Collar, is on my list. When I was at a point where I could have gone, you know, I got to the
mhm.
road, I could have turned left or turned right. He helped me turn right. Um, my first great boss in the broadcasting business is on there. His name is John Campbell. He taught me how to be a pro in the business. And then my last one changes once in a while, but yeah, Tony Dungy, just
Mhm.
because I used to do a show with Tony and knew Tony when he was in Minnesota, and he's a man who walks the walk and talks the
Yeah,
talk. He's just the real deal. And if you haven't, matter of fact, I got the book right here. If you haven't read his book Uncommon, you should read it,
it is an
because
amazing book. I have read
yeah,
that one. It's
yeah.
amazing.
How can we all be uncommon?
Hmm. Quick story. Can you share any funny or unexpected behind the scenes stories from broadcasting that still makes you laugh today?
Oh boy, there's a lot of them. There's some I can't tell on this
I bet.
this podcast. I think of there's a lot. The one that just comes to mind is we had an anchor one time who was from the South, and they were doing one of these polar plunges.
Yeah.
And so the reporter's out there going live, and so they have the hole cut in the ice, and the reporter goes, and you wouldn't believe it, the water is 36 degrees, and these guys are jumping in there, and the anchor goes, no, that water's got to be colder than that. It's got to be zero. And the guy said, no, they've got the thing, and there's 36 degrees. She insisted it's got to be at least zero, and then finally the reporter said, if it was zero, it'd be ice. So I'm on the set and I'm falling off my chair laughing, and they go to me next. And I couldn't talk.
Couldn't put it together.
Yeah. So
you had talked earlier about wanting to be a professional athlete. So here's the last question I'm going to throw you, Joe.
okay.
Let's have some fun with this one. If you could switch lives with any professional athlete for just a day, who would it be? And what would you do during your day as that athlete?
Wow, that I have never been asked that before. I did interview Tiger Woods one time, and I'm a golfer. And if I could hit the ball like Tiger Woods for one day,
yeah,
that would be really fun. And I would want to be playing on Augusta and in the Masters. That I think there after that day you could bury me. I'd leave this world a very happy man.
You could hang up the clubs. You'd be all done, right? All done.
That would be it.
Well, Joe, this has been such a fun interview, and I want to kind of give you a chance to just one more time here. What's your last call to action, Joe? Like, what do you want to say to people as your lasting moment here?
Well, figure out ways that you can make a bigger impact on the world. And here's one message I like to leave in my speeches. Think about making one more positive impact a day and write it down, just because if you're having a bad day, you can look at it. But then think this is like your 401k or your retirement plan. You put little deposits in every day. And by the end of the year, just imagine how much relationship equity you'll have built up in that time. You'll have deeper, more meaningful relationships. You'll have more friends. You'll have better, more solid connections. And it all becomes part of our intentionality, because we all get so busy. But what are we going to do to make that happen every day?
Right. Well, with that, I want to thank everybody for joining us today with this enlightening episode of TalentED with Joe Schmit. We've explored the incredible journey of both broadcasting, authorship, and really just how do you leave an indelible impact on both the world around you, right? Remember, if you're inspired by Joe's wisdom and his insights, you can book him for speaking engagements. Certainly School Pro can help you with that. We are an educational concierge company founded for our very own people around the state. We want to help. So it's an opportunity to bring Joe's transformative message to your organization and make that positive impact. And as we conclude, I want to leave you with our reminder today. Stay PKS, which is positive, kind, and supportive in all you do. Your positive actions and kindness create ripples of change, or as Joe would say, impact around the world. So thank you for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe for more captivating episodes as we move forward. And with that, until next time, like I said, stay PKS. Thank you, Joe. And goodbye, everybody.